look at, if you look at the situation, we know there's only two sides, right? You have Jesus on one side, and then you have everyone else on the other side. Now, Trump is not a believer in Jesus. So keep in mind when you start painting Trump that there's only two sides. There's Jesus on one side and there's everyone else on the other side. Trump is on the same side as Hillary, okay? He may be very different. He may have a different direction plan. One thing is for sure, if he's not a globalist and he's not on board with their agenda, they're going to get rid of him somehow, okay? They're not going to allow him to come in and mess up all their plans. But I think what's more likely is that Trump is a part of their plan, because Trump is an expert at taking bankrupt companies and turning them around and bringing them back to where they can make money again. And that is exactly what they need. See, the United States is a corporation rather than a nation. And they need somebody. Very well could be that he is their man, the globalists, that he's their man. But keep in mind, everybody on that side is on the same side. Hillary and Trump are on the same side unless they're claiming faith in Jesus. So, and if they're claiming faith in Jesus, they're not going to be a world leader, because it says Satan gets to choose. All right? So that does make us think a little bit, doesn't it? As far as, well, I mean, why do we even bother voting if we don't get to choose? Or are we Satan's tool to choose, whoever it is he wants in there? I don't know, but either way, it's an interesting thing. Now, as far as Trump goes, let's look at some of the possibilities. Hang on 1 second. Hang on. Sorry. Okay. Now, let's look at the possibilities for Trump here. Now, the USA is the grand experiment, okay? They're not America intact. They want America on the grid. They don't want America kicked back to the Stone Age, technologically speaking. They want everybody productive, and I really don't think that we're looking at the destruction of the USA prior to the midpoint when we are evacuated. I think it's entirely possible that the effects in the United States will be minimal compared to what you're looking at in the Middle East as far as wars and poverty and really bad things go. Wonders tell us that the Church of Laodicea is wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked, but they think they're rich. Now, if an EMP was to go off over American soil, then that would set us back to the Stone Age where technology is. And they are not going to do that. They're not going to do that. It is not in the interests of the Antichrist for us to escape these things. And see, if they took down our grid to where in America we had no more electric grid, no more communications, no more being in touch with the world, that would totally defeat their purposes. And so they're not going to go that way where an EMP is concerned. What they're going to do is they're going to make sure that when they collapse the economy, that it comes down in a controlled kind of way. They're not going to let the USA deteriorate into lawlessness and chaos and craziness, because we are their cash cow, okay? We are their great experiment. So that means that they're not going to destroy us first half. And I don't think that we're destroyed for quite a while during the second half either. It's really good news for those that are still here that it's a mixed blessing, because the USA is probably going to remain intact Now, we may end up having some kind of false flag, some kind of terrorist attack in one or two of our cities or whatever. But as far as a nation, being a nation goes, I don't think we're going to lose our power grid. I don't think that we are going to suffer destruction prior to the midpoint when our evacuation is most likely. Okay? It's good news and bad news for the USA because they want the mark to succeed over here. They want the structure to remain intact for the mark. And for the mark system to operate, you have to have a power grid. You have to have the internet. You have to have, you have to have technology. You can't have an EMP send us back to the Stone Age and still mark everybody. Okay? If we had an EMP that took us out of the equation, we would escape the mark. And I don't think that you can count on that. The mark of the beast requires the technology, requires the grid, requires the electricity, requires the net, requires all that global communications. See, the Antichrist, he wants everybody to see him on television. And if they knock us out with an EMP, nobody's looking at anything, are they? If they took us down with an EMP off the grid to where we're in the Stone Age and we got no more electricity, no more technology, then we would all escape the mark in the United States. And I think I don't think that that's possible. That the United States is going to escape it. Okay, the whole idea is to mark everybody and to control everybody and to control every person and every transaction by every person. So as I've been looking into this, it looks to me like there's another reason as well why I think it's possible that the end time effects in the United States may come as far as war and devastation and things like that are going to hold off until the second half. They want to integrate the mark technology. They want to integrate the new economic system and all of that, and you can't do that without a power grid. Okay, so I'm not really thinking that an EMP would fit into the scenario and really reconcile with the scriptures. But one thing I do that I have been considering in all this is that the word indicates that those who are lukewarm, the Laodicean believers, who are really integrated into the world and far more than they should be as believers, okay? They are caught off guard. How can the Laodicean lukewarm believers be caught off guard if nukes are going off in our cities? Okay? I don't think they can. What this tells me is that the effects of the tribulation, the first half, which we're in right now, I mean, we're 17 months into it, and there's people out there that have no idea in America. You have no idea in America that the prophecies are taking place. Because as these things, it says in Matthew 24, 28 or 27, that these things start in the east and move toward the west. But that doesn't mean they're going to be really, really bad in the west before the second half. It catches them off guard when Jesus comes. So when he comes at the midpoint, which I think is, my evidence shows currently September 2018, when he comes at that point, we are still intact as a nation in the USA. We have not been destroyed at that point. The lukewarm believers are caught off guard. They are, like it says here in Revelation 3, He says, oh, here we go. In Revelation 3:15, I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. Now, if you've got a war zone you're standing in, that people do tend to, lean toward God in a more heated type of way. So then, because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Because thou sayest, I am rich, and increased with goods, and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched, and miserable, and poor, and blind, and naked. And then the Lord counsels them to buy of him gold tried in the fire, that they may be rich, white raiment, that they may be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. And then he says, as many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous, therefore, and repent. So he is rebuking these believers who get to the midpoint when he shows up, but they're not ready. They're not ready to go. He spews them back out, and they have to die for him to get home. When you get past the second half. But what it looks like is the USA is going to be completely intact the entire time we're here. We may have some isolated false flag or terrorist attack, but the USA is not going anywhere. It's not going to be destroyed prior. It just doesn't work with the prophecies. Excuse me. For the USA to be destroyed. It doesn't work. So it looks like the USA, the people of the USA may not feel many effects. Goodness. I'm getting better, guys. I've already taken my antibiotic and my steroid, but this weather out here, is killing me. But we may not feel that many effects that you would expect from the tribulation period prior to the midpoint. And it also looks like we probably will not be faced with a situation where we have to take the mark or be executed prior to our evacuation either. The word says in Revelation 3:10, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, where are you? Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Okay? The hour of temptation, that's second half. That is second half. And all the really bad stuff is second half. The wrath is second half. It's not wrath up till the time when we evacuate. And then it gets bad after that. So the way it's looking, it's good news and it's bad news in that we may not, bugs out here. The USA will probably be intact, and the USA will probably be without a bunch of end-time effects all the way up until the point where we leave. Okay? It probably won't be as bad as what we have considered. And I think it's important to remember that the scriptures are saying that those believers who are lukewarm are caught unaware. Now, it can't be too bad, can it, if that section of the believers are caught unaware. If you're caught unaware by these things, then obviously your cities aren't being nuked. Okay? If you're caught unaware, I think that the effects are minimal in the United States up until the point where we leave and are evacuated. Now, Trump, you decide for yourself. Now, Luke chapter 4 indicates that Satan is the one who chooses the world's leaders. Now, do you think that you choose the world leaders when the world says Satan chooses them? Now, does that mean that your vote doesn't even matter? I think that's exactly what it means. I think that our votes don't even matter. Either that, or we are being used as tools for Satan's behalf to choose the world leaders with our vote. And we certainly don't want that either, do we? We certainly don't. I'm going to turn this up just a little bit. So what do you think? Trump is in the lead at the moment. Hillary is our worst case scenario, I think. It looks like, I think that things can get somewhat better if we have Trump in there instead of Hillary. We'll just have to see. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this.
You can give me the